There we go.
It looks like we're live. Welcome to the Relationship Hotline. Welcome back, everybody. So, this one is for you if you can resonate with this. Have you ever been discarded or dumped in a way that was really uncaring? If you have, you probably know. And how can we end relationships with care? What does that look like? And the reason why this is such a big topic is because a lot of people who I talk with, a lot of clients who come to me, same with you, Amanda, I'm sure, come after a breakup because that is a time when we're processing everything that happened. And it makes a big difference if the person who we broke up with did it with care and compassion or if they did it in a hurtful way. And when you ask people in life, what were the biggest traumas or the hardest things you've ever gone through in your life, most people will talk about the ending of relationships, whether that was a death, a divorce, or a breakup. So this is a huge topic that really matters to a lot of people. It's a life-changing point in a lot of people's lives when they go through a breakup, or even if you have to break up with somebody. That's not a fun part of the process either, if you're the one who has to do it. And of course, some people get turned into a bad guy, and we're going to talk about that a little bit too. So, this is the relationship hotline. That's the topic for today. Because it's the hotline, you know that this is an opportunity for you to register for a call, which is this is for members of the Thriving Relationships Facebook group. And if you're a member of the group, you have access to register to call in and get in-depth expert guidance on your specific relationship issue live. So I think this is a good time to introduce ourselves. My name is Daniel Robertson. I'm a relationship coach. I I'm a lawyer. I'm been a professor. I've got a background in conflict resolution, and I love guiding career-driven professionals to fulfilling relationships. Coach Amanda, will you please introduce yourself?
Yes. I did not know you were a professor.
You didn't know I was
That's
a
something
professor.
no, I just learned that about you. It totally makes sense though. My name is Amanda Monk. I am a certified erotic blueprint coach and Tantra speed date facilitator. And I work with singles and couples to improve your sex life and have exceedingly magical pleasure in your life.
I love the way you say that. I'm trying to get better at my introductions. Okay, so let's jump into this topic. I did have, so because this is live, the opportunity to register ahead of time to call in is only available to members of the group. But I had a couple people say they wanted to call in and didn't register. So you still have the opportunity live right now. You can call in. You can call in *67, which hides your number so that you can stay totally anonymous. Then you do 1-669-900-9128. And if you call in right now, you can come have fun with us. So,
Yeah.
uh, I mean, it's a little bit wild that we have no idea what we're gonna get if you call in right now. But come have fun with us.
We're up for anything.
Yes. Maybe. Okay. So to today's topic. Um, uh, a lot of people in the Thriving Relationships group, a lot of people who I work with have been through really hurtful relationship endings. Now we're gonna give you some examples of different types of hurtful relationship endings, why they hurt, and then we're gonna give you an example of, wait, how do I do this with care and honesty? So the first example is one of the most common examples for my clients, and that is it's either it's a discard. It means you're discarded rather than being uh, changing relationship forms with care and love and saying, hey, I can still love this person. I can care about how this is affecting them and show them um, and talk about the meaning of the relationship. Rather than doing that, it's just ending the relationship, sometimes blindsiding, sometimes total surprise. And it's like, I'm leaving. Usually, well, we could talk about different elements. Amanda, do you want to say anything else before I? we talk about some of the elements of an avoidant discard or a narcissistic discard.
Yeah, I think that it's important to voice that most people have been on both sides of this. And this is a skill. This is a relationship skill that is really important if you're dating. And that's really who we're talking to right now in this level because we decided before we jumped on today to save like the bigger breakups, like a divorce or something like that for another day. And so just to kind of like be clear on what we're talking about today, this is really for dating. And there are things we'll talk about that apply if you're in more of a long term or a marriage and it's time to end it. But for the most part, we're really talking about that dating stage and um, really encouraging folks that are interested in this listening to be really honest with yourself about where you really show up in this because it can be really hard to look at ourselves and be like, oh, I might not be very good at this. Or I try my best, but a lot of times too when we're looking at this is something I want to add, like the difference between breaking up over text versus having a actual live conversation about a breakup too. So I think this is a really juicy topic. Um, I mean, I've just experienced recently like a not fun time where something was going really good while we were dating, or at least I thought it was, and then I was just kind of like cut off all of a sudden, and I was like, oh, that sucks. But it's a good refresher too of why I want to learn from that. I don't want to ever do that to somebody and leave somebody feeling that way. So anyway, I'm excited about this topic. I think there's a lot to it.
I really appreciate that because this is not meant to cause anybody to feel shame. We may feel shame. You may feel shame. It's not meant to cause it. I know that I've been on the receiving end of hurtful breakups, and I've also, done some hurtful breakups. Just because, not because I wanted to hurt anybody, just because lacked the skills and I didn't know how to navigate things.
Yeah.
So, yeah, we can relate to you. And I really appreciate that you added that element, Amanda, because I I tend to think of this from the perspective of the people that got broken up with in a hurtful way because they end up being my clients and I hear their stories. But yes, there is the other side of it. Um, I can think about one in particular that I did that was hurtful and sudden to somebody. I tried to have care, but it it was a tough one. And and I got into therapy after that. I was like, I don't want to hurt somebody like that again.
Mhm.
So yeah, I did feel bad. And thankfully, feeling bad, you take that and rather than stuff it down, say, what do I do with this feeling? Let's self-reflect and gain more skills.
Yeah.
So I'll just say a couple words about discard. All these labels are really can be really harsh and they get thrown around a lot in pop psychology and online and everything. But there are some patterns. And so when I talk about an avoidant discard, this happens when somebody who has an avoidant attachment style basically just abruptly ends a relationship. And what's happening is typically there's a couple elements where one is they're either afraid to have the conversation, don't want to have the conversation, they don't we this is somebody who avoids conflict in general, avoids those difficult conversations. And it can be easy to demonize these people. I would say, look, if you follow me, you know that I call this the sexy independent attachment style.
Yep.
So, there's the sexy fun, which is the disorganized, the sexy expressive, which is the anxious, and the sexy balanced, which is secure. And this isn't meant to label somebody as a bad person, but what's happening for that person they don't know how to have the conversation. They're afraid to have the conversation. Typically, by this point, there's been so much conflict in the relationship that the other person has come at them with a lot of emotion and intensity and anxiety, and they are like overwhelmed by all the anxiety and emotion coming at them. So, and they don't know how to handle that. So, just having another conversation would be, you mean I'm just going to expose myself to tons of anxiety and emotion coming at me, not knowing how to deal with it? Another pattern in this dynamic is the avoidant person will start to flaw find in their partner. This is, they're not consciously aware that this is going on. they just start to say, "Oh, my partner's got this flaw and that this flaw, and now they're giving me the ick, and now I don't respect them." And you start to build up all these um, this flaw finding in your mind about the other person, and then you start to feel like, you know, they're just going to come at me with a bunch of emotion. They've got all these flaws. I just need to get out of this situation. It's just got to end. I can't, there's nothing else to do. A conversation wouldn't be fruitful. So it's just going to end, block, boundaries. Maybe they still watch your Instagram stories.
Yes, they do.
They still watch your Instagram story. They might miss you a little bit. They might feel some relief when it happens, but they're like still watching your stories, but
I
they
want
don't talk to you.
I want to speak to that. Because I've been on that side of the avoidant a few times and have had the privilege of being able to talk to that person years later to understand what was going on for them. And this is just one person, so it's anecdotal, but his description of what was happening is um, really feeling a sense of overwhelm by how much he cared, which, as the person on the receiving side of the discard, felt the opposite. It felt like they don't care at all. They are so wrapped up in themselves and they're so closed off that they just pulled it all back. And when I was able to hear from him that no, it's because I didn't think I could do it well and I didn't want to hurt you. And so this felt like the cleanest way. And I was just like, it was the most hurtful way. But from his point of view, he was that was his version of kindness and all that he was capable of because he was in a lot of fear and pain. Those are my words, not his. He would never say he's scared of anything. That's just who that man is. But it was overwhelming and then very quickly able to justify the behavior with like, I can't provide you this. I don't have the time you need. Like really all of the fault finding, somewhat in me in that, as the person who wasn't avoidant, I was too much. I needed more than they could give, more than he could give. But really it was in a way the fault finding you're talking about, which was like all the ways the relationship was going to fail were just like building up in his mind and it was just insurmountable. So the best thing to do is to just cut it and go. And I was like, that's the worst thing to do. But we were coming from different points in the relationship. So I think there are times where um, when you're on the receiving end of this avoidant discard, it can feel like this person's heartless when really that's not what's happening for them. But they often don't have the capacity and the skill set and the nervous system regulation they need because if they did, they'd be more secure, right? To be able to show up and say, here's how I'm feeling, this is what's going on, I need space or I need to end this. And instead, you just get the panic cut off.
Yes, yes. So I really appreciate that you added that. Yeah, so I think we can contrast this. Adding that, it's kind of interesting that we label it as a discard. Maybe that label is not appropriate because from the avoidant, attacher's perspective, they don't see it as discarding you. From the receiving end, it feels like, oh, you're done with me. Now you just discard me. We didn't like, did the relationship mean nothing to you? You don't care how I feel about this. You don't give me an opportunity to work through it together. It feels like just being thrown away. Now, maybe that's not the right label for this situation because it makes it sound different than what's really going on.
I hear what I experience it as, and this is probably isn't for either, but I think it's like the avoidant panic.
Yeah.
Because when they come back and they start following, and they're still wanting to keep some connection but on their terms of I'm going to watch your content, I'm going to keep an eye on you, right? It's
Yeah.
like I thought you were gone, I thought this was a no for you. So it really is, you can see that attraction to you is still there, they're still interested, they just don't have the skill set to actually be active in your life.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what happened for me, by the way. This was years and years ago. I was young. I had a rebound relationship that ramped up really fast, and she I started feeling trapped in the relationship all of a sudden and panicked. And I said, I have to end this. I'm sorry. I tried to have a conversation with her like, I'm sorry. I was I don't want to hurt you, but I don't know what to do. And she was so upset and so I tried to have the conversation, but I also panicked and didn't know what to do.
Yeah.
Um so let's contrast that. I think we can talk about a narcissistic discard pretty briefly,
Hmm.
which a narcissist is someone who, all right, without going into too much detail, this person looks at relationships as supply. They want to receive, they're looking to receive something from the relationship. It's not actually about love. They look at people as objects. And so when somebody becomes either too difficult to control or is not adequately feeding their supply, um, they may actually just discard you because they don't actually empathize or see you as a human being. I'm talking about kind of extreme end narcissistic personality
Yeah, like a
disorder.
sociopathic narcissist or yeah.
Yeah, and these are extremely damaging to somebody's psyche. It is so hurtful. So if somebody goes through that, you need a lot of care to be able to process what just happened to me. I thought I was in love with this person, and then they treated me like this. And I don't, yeah, do you have anything else to add to narcissistic discard, Amanda?
Um, the things I'll add to it, um, oof, and I mean this with a lot of empathy. I've been I've been in a relationship with a sociopathic narcissist years ago, right after I got out of a relationship was my rebound essentially. So I've been there. And what I would say is it's gonna suck. It's gonna hurt. You were literally discarded. And it is one of the most potent portals for healing that you will ever experience. And so it's not to like gaslight it and say it's a blessing. I don't mean it like that. But it is one of those crack open opportunities where you can go back and be like, what part of me wanted that kind of relationship enough that I was willing to participate in it? Where were the flags that I missed, right? Like, this is a portal for healing. And so there's no way either you or I can be on a call like this and start helping a narcissist understand how to be less narcissistic. So I think with this particular one, it's like this is going to happen. If you're with a narcissist, you will eventually get discarded. And they may even use this pattern of discarding you as a way to try to pull you back in so they can keep doing it, so they can refresh their supply of you wanting them so bad. Right. So just if you are going through anything like this, get professional help with a therapist because that is the only way through it. And you're going to end up healing, whether it's short term or long term. There's no avoiding facing yourself when you are coming out of a relationship with a narcissist.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, if you've been through it, you've been subject to so much manipulation and gaslighting that it makes you question your ability to understand reality. And you've got to get clarity on what you just experienced. And like Amanda said, it's traumatizing, so we wouldn't wish it on anybody.
Right.
But it is an opportunity at that point where you can heal and you ask yourself, why was I willing to accept that poor treatment? And it usually is related to low self-esteem in some way
Mhm.
and low self-worth, however you want to look at it. And that's an opportunity to heal your inner child, your subconscious that viewed yourself that way. So,
The other thing I want to add to this one really quickly, which is a really interesting way to give yourself enough awareness to not get sucked in to this cycle, is you might not have been in a romantic relationship with a narcissist, but you've probably worked with one. And so
yeah,
you might be able to see somebody in your workplace where you're like, oh, that's what that would be like. And that's just like a little side tip there of like, hey, you will be able to spot them and notice the patterns so that you don't get in a romantic relationship with someone like that.
yeah, yeah. They don't take accountability. They don't genuinely seek to understand somebody else's perspective. They just try to get information so they can use it against you. They They don't admit when they're wrong. They get defensive if they get criticized. Um, yeah,
They'll build a coalition of other people to all turn on you so that you'll leave instead of them having to leave. Like it gets nasty.
yep,
But you've probably seen it in your workplace or, somewhere else outside of romantic relationships. So just watch for it. You'll find it.
yeah. So, we can talk about ghosting or slow fades, which this is potentially related. You're dating somebody and then all of a sudden they're gone and don't message you.
Mhm.
And you message them and you don't hear back from them. And uh, yeah, this has become more common over the years, I think, um, with online dating and everything over the last couple decades, at least. And yeah, I mean, ghosting is just not having a conversation saying, "Hey, the relationship isn't working for me for whatever reason." It's just disappearing. And obviously, this is hurtful because you're left confused. What just happened? Are they
Mhm.
gone? Did they die in a car accident? Like, like what happened? What do you have to add about ghosting? And you could talk about slow fades maybe too.
Sure. So I feel like I have two categories written down for ghosting, which is the full ghost, which is like the just cut off, just disappears on you. And even sometimes I've seen ghosting happen where um, they stop doing the majority of what was happening. Like they're not texting you anymore if you've met in person, like you're never going to see, they're going to avoid places where you used to go, stuff like that. But then you might get hints of them online stalking you still. Still full ghost, right? Like they
Mhm.
just disappeared. And then I think like I call the slow fade or like the slow ghosting, which is really more of somebody starting to deliberately slow down in their response, to start to go from engaging conversation into only using a few words at a time, yes, no questions, or their responses change. I've seen this happen where somebody is, and this actually kind of leads into one of the last ones we were going to talk about, which is monkey branching. But sometimes the slow fade is because you were a rebound and they are afraid of having a conversation. But the slow fade, when I've had clients that slow fade people, and I've actually done this before too, it's been a long time, but the slow fade is where you try to throttle back anything hurtful, and you think, if I just back off slowly, it's like taking the band-aid off tiny, tiny, tiny little bit at a time so there's no pain. And it doesn't work that way. It's still not clear, right? And the slow fade is, I think, one of the more painful experiences. Now, don't get me wrong, like a full ghost is really abrupt and confusing. And I think maybe for somebody that has an avoidant attachment, or excuse me, a anxious attachment style, that might be the most hurtful. For somebody that has more of an avoidant tilt, to experience the slow fade might actually feel good for them because it's like, oh, we get to avoid the conflict. We're just like slowly backing off from each other. And so, it kind of, I can see this slow fade being used more often as opposed to just having a conversation like, let's just stop kind of talking every day. And then it becomes once a week. And then it becomes like, oh, hi, stranger. Like, and then it becomes, I never hear from you again. And so, either way, you're still in a form of not being open and honest about what's happening. And so you're in avoidance of telling the truth, of sharing your truth with the other person. It still falls under the category of not healthy. And I think that one is maybe the one that people think they're doing other people a favor by slow fade. You're not. It's still confusing. It's still a form of rejection. It still hurts to be on the other side of it. And usually, like when I've been slow faded, I won't let it go on for very long. I'll just ask, "Hey, I'm noticing things are slowing down. What's going on here?" And then I get the ghost. And then I get they're completely gone. They're not going to answer that question. I'm like, "Oh, that's what they were avoiding all along." So sometimes you get a combination of these mixed all up
Definitely.
in. Yeah.
Yeah, so in all these situations, people aren't being honest about what's really going on for them. You know, as you were describing it, I thought of another reason why people might slow fade. If somebody's really active in online dating, they're dating multiple people, and you start a relationship with one person, you're like, okay, and then you find somebody else who you're more interested in. And so you're like, oh, let me spend more time with this person and kind of slow things down with this person and see if things work out. And if not, then I can maybe come back around to this person.
Oh, this is so good. This is such a rich topic because then we start getting into like, what's the right thing to do when I'm online dating and I'm juggling multiple conversations at the same time. So
Yeah.
I love that. And that also to me kind of goes into monkey branching a little bit. So let's talk about that one.
Okay, why don't you jump into monkey branching?
Okay, monkey branching is, and that's actually a term I've only heard from you, but this is my perspective on it. It is when you are ready to end a relationship with someone, but you are not okay being on your own or not, or being alone, essentially being single. And so you keep one person around until you've got the next person locked in, and then you switch. So it's like that in between stage. The image I have is like the monkey's swinging from one tree and hasn't let go, but is reaching out or maybe has gripped onto the other tree before they're willing to let go of the previous relationship. And, serial monogamy, whatever title you want to put on this, essentially you are avoiding the breakup because you're avoiding being alone, another hallmark of an unhealthy pattern, right? And so, really unfair to the person that's being strung along. And also, again, another opportunity to be really open and honest with the person that you're seeing and having a conversation with them. The truth is, they might be willing to casually date you, knowing you're going to be dating other people if you have that open conversation with them or not, and that's okay too. But doing all of this inside yourself without communicating it is not clear and kind. It is not a effective way to maneuver the dating world. I think that people are as afraid of being the one to be hurt as they are of being the one to do the hurting, right? And some people are more comfortable being the victim and being the hurt one, and some people are more comfortable being the villain and being the one who does the hurting, right? And none of those phrases are fun, but I think that's what we portray into these situations is what we project onto them. Like, you're either going to be the one getting dumped, you're going to be the one doing the dumping. And it makes it a really scary part of the dating process. But like ending a relationship is 100% a skill and it's necessary to be able to navigate the dating world effectively.
You were being so nice there, telling them if you're if you're not being honest, you're not being clear and kind, you're not being courageous, you're just afraid.
Mhm.
And this is so judgmental, but it's cowardly.
You're right,
Not
it is.
always, not always, but
But usually it is.
yeah,
Usually it is. And it may be cowardly in addition to lacking skills, right? But then go get the skills if you want to date.
yeah.
Like, too bad we can't have a prerequisite. Like, you have to go through these communication classes before you can join our dating app. Like, maybe we
That's a
need to
good,
build a dating app.
yeah, that's I think that's a smart idea. So again, cowardly is a strong word. And Amanda and I have already shared that we have gone through breakups that we did not do in the most skillful way. Was it cowardly? Sometimes maybe. If I tried to have the conversation, I wouldn't say that was cowardly, but if I avoided telling somebody the truth because I was afraid, what do you call that? It's not
Yeah.
like I was afraid for my physical safety, I'm like, I'm afraid they're going to be mad at me. What is it really? I'm afraid that I'm going to be seen as a bad person. Oh
Yeah.
no,
I'm the bad guy. I do want to just acknowledge there are circumstances, and we're not speaking to these in this context, but I want to acknowledge there are circumstances where people are afraid for their well-being or their safety in a breakup.
Yes.
And so
Yes.
just to clear that, I'm like, I want to acknowledge that's real. And that's
Yeah.
not what we're covering here. That's different. If you're fleeing an
Right.
abusive relationship, get the fuck out.
Yeah.
Do
If
what
you've
you need to
got,
do.
right. If somebody's abusive, I know somebody who has gone through being stalked, that is not okay. You need to protect yourself, absolutely. So, yeah, so none of this is to make anybody feel bad, but when we do feel bad, use that as an opportunity to self-reflect and grow.
Yeah.
So, the other thing too is as you learn to become more confident and secure in yourself, it actually makes dating so much more enjoyable. When I
Mm-hmm.
say I just had to go through this recently. I just had to let somebody down after I scheduled a date with them and canceled on them.
Mm-hmm.
And so I had to think, how can I carefully, compassionately, like in a caring way do this? But it's makes dating so much more enjoyable when you have the confidence and security in yourself to have honest conversations with people. And some of that confidence comes from number one, doing the inner work you need on yourself to understand yourself and your past, but also having the skills, you know, knowing now, do I have the skills to disappoint somebody without them getting hurt? No, they are going to get hurt. Maybe, getting rejected, rejecting somebody isn't fun. Getting rejected by somebody isn't fun. It's probably going to hurt, but we can have the skills to do it in a way that still shows care when we do it.
I love it. I I really feel like I've been guilty of being too nice and not direct enough in a breakup, and then finding they didn't realize we just broke up. And now I have to do it all over again. And
Oh
this time I'm going
gosh.
to have to be even more direct and harsh in my point of view.
Yeah.
And so, I think I'm being clear and I'm just not really saying the thing. And so that's a big lesson for me over time. And that's been a few years now. I'm a lot more direct. And I have to psych myself up to do it. Sometimes it sucks. I don't want to hurt them, but I cannot navigate ending the relationship from a place of integrity if I am completely immersed in how they feel and be trying to avoid for them the hurt. Like that is something we signed up for together by entering the dating world is that this relationship at some point is going to come to an end, whether it's death do we part or, it's a Tuesday and I don't want to do this anymore. So you really have to get some resilience, both as the person who might want to end it and the person who might be receiving that breakup conversation. I just thought of something else too, because I've seen this in some of my clients, especially my female clients, the ladies who don't want to hurt the guy, and so they will pretend. And it's a little bit like slow fade, but they will just pretend and pretend and pretend while they are totally moving on. And really, I think that in a way, that is also really damaging. It's not quite slow fade, but it's just kind of like the smile and nod, we'll call it. Like that might be its own category. Where, like, I'm not going to let on that I'm done with you, but I'm done with you, but I'm not also going to take responsibility to speak up about it. I'm just going to let you lose interest because I become less interesting. I've
Yeah.
seen that a few times.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's really important for women to know sometimes you need to hurt the guy. Like, because otherwise, how does he know what areas where he needs to grow? And
Subtlety doesn't work.
subtlety doesn't work.
The subtlety doesn't work. You've got to be direct. And I keep coming back to this thing. I actually looked it up because I was like, I couldn't remember if this was from Kim Scott or if it was from Brene Brown, and it's actually both.
Hmm.
It's in both. So Kim Scott, who wrote Radical Candor, and I love her work. She is clear as kind, clear as kind, and it's actually in Brene Brown's work as well.
Mhm.
And I think we forget that where we think kind is this like soft dance around it. Don't actually say the thing because that'll keep someone from getting hurt. But if that person is confused, that might be even more hurtful.
Yeah.
Like, did they break up with me? Are we still together? Now I have to find the courage in myself to actually go back and ask a question like, wait, I'm not sure. Are we over? Are we still dating? What's going on? Right? Like that might actually be even more painful for the other person as opposed to just it being really clean.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think let's wrap up this conversation with the topic of how to do things with care
Mhm.
and clear and kind and honest. Great. Here's what people need when they're going through, if you're breaking up with them, or really both people need this, but in order to process our breakup in the best way we can, we need to be able to make sense of the experience we just had. Does the person care about me or not? What was the meaning of the relationship? Did that person really love me? And then here's some really challenging um, topic. Why did they want to end things with me? Now, this is really challenging. What if they weren't attracted to me? What if I'll just use these are real examples. What if I gained a bunch of weight, and I wasn't as fit as I was before, or I was drinking too much beer, or let's use the beer example. You're drinking too much beer, and that's why we're breaking up. That would be really helpful information for me to know, for me to feel the sting of the pain of knowing the truth and being like, this is the time where I need to choose whether I'm going to make myself better by not drinking too much beer and being healthier or not. If somebody dances around it and says, "Oh, I don't know, I just want to travel and I want to be single now," and they're not telling you the real reason, well, now you don't know what it is in your life that is that you're getting feedback about. You're not getting the feedback you need to grow. So, um, that's, I think, being able to make sense of your experience, understand what meaning the relationship had. That's why these other things don't, like when we don't have that conversation, that's why it's so hurtful because we're so confused and it takes so much time. We're going through pain. We don't know what caused us the pain. And it's then we can just ruminate. Did I cause this? Was it that thing that I said that one time? Was it maybe they weren't attracted to me? If they monkey branched, why did they go pick to be with somebody else rather than to be with me? Like, what does that woman have that I don't have? It might not be about that at all.
Right.
So having that honest conversation helps you process.
hmm
What would you add to
I
that,
I
Amanda?
agree. I think that's great. I think it helps both people process. I think if you're the one ending it, here's the point that I really want to make that I see, especially my clients that are anxious attachment, they over-explain themselves. You also don't owe the other person the 4 paragraphs as to why you want to end it and using that as a way to try to soften the blow. It's not a one sentence breakup or phone call, right? Because a lot of breakups happen over text now. A lot of relationships happen over text now, right? More texting than there is in person. Um, and and there's a time and place. Sometimes a text is okay if it's not that serious, if you haven't been dating that long. Um, Sometimes it needs to be a phone call or an in-person conversation if it's a more in-depth relationship or there's been a lot of investment in the relationship. But at the end of it, having being honest and not also feeling like you have to have 6 justifications in your pocket as to why, right? Like you saying, this isn't working for me, or this it just isn't turning out the way I hoped it would. I really, wanted to feel more XYZ, or I really need a relationship where we can be in person more often. And so I'm ending this before I get more invested. Or, really having something to share that's honest and clear is important, but also you're not in court. You
You
don't
don't need to
have to
prove yourself.
produce evidence.
If it's not working for you, that's a totally legitimate reason. Sorry, it's not working for me. It's legitimate. That might
Yeah,
be it.
and maybe it is I want to travel more or um I'm not feeling a level of connection that I really prefer to have in a relationship and that can be enough.
Yep.
It can also be I'm too busy. Like
Yep.
I'm not able to keep up. There's a lot of reasons they don't need to be like legitimized or validated by the other person when you're in the breakup, but you need to be willing to be honest with yourself and with the other person and own your part of it. So that's really the best that I can say because there's so many circumstances, right? But it can be more hurtful if you come with a laundry list of things too. Because if you are that person who doesn't realize it, but you've actually been pushing that person away by fault finding, and then you're like, I want to break up, and they're like, why? And you're like, well, hold on, let me get my list. That could be really hurtful too, right? You don't need to criticize the person or justify the ending like to a major depth. What you need to do is have a reason that feels really grounded in you, share your reason, and then you also get to decide if you're willing to talk about it or not, too. So having a healthy boundary in the breakup is important, right? If you're breaking up with somebody who doesn't want to be broken up with, or you have just pounced on their ego and you didn't even know that that was, part of who they were, or they were going to show up that way, and they're demanding a reason why. And, I've had that experience before where I've ended it with somebody and it's almost like they chased me down to justify why and try to talk me back into the relationship. And you don't have to put up with that either. So, really finding that balance for yourself of this is my truth, this is how I'm feeling, this is the outcome that I'm creating. I'm ending the relationship. Wish you the best. Hopefully in a perfect world, it can be really, um, you know, I don't, there's a word that I just lost, but where both people can be like, on good terms when the relationship's ending and just be like, okay, see ya, peace out. Yeah, there's disappointment. It's not always going to work that way, and
Yeah.
that's okay.
Yeah. I absolutely. I think you raised a whole bunch of good points. You illustrated how complicated this whole conversation is. One last comment that I had, if the reason you're breaking up with somebody is actually something about them, like the beer example, you're just drinking 6 packs, 6 beers a day, and it's just, I don't want to be in a relationship like that. If it really is something like that, you might, if to do this in a caring way, you can see if they want to know your reasons for breakup. Say, you could say, hey, this relationship isn't working for me. I need, I need to go my own way. Would you like to have a conversation about why I feel this way? You give them the opportunity to say yes or no to that before you lay into them for their flaws, because laying into somebody else for their flaws is generally not caring.
Yeah.
Okay, so, but being honest with them about your reason is. See the nuance?
Well, I think the one thing, the last thing I'll say is you can check in with yourself. Is am I making this breakup about the other person or am I making it about me?
Yes.
So if you're coming into the breakup and saying, here's where I'm at, and this is my stuff, and this is my thing to end it, that's a lot different than being like, you and you and you and you, and this is your fault, and I'm out of here,
Yeah.
right? It's a big difference between those things. And that goes back to like just basic communication, right? And
Yes.
conflict skills, but those apply here.
Great points. I'm sure there's more that we could cover. I hope people got
Probably.
value out of this. I
Yeah.
obviously these are difficult to navigate. If you're going through this and you want help navigating it, you can reach out to me. You can reach out to Amanda. You can find me on Facebook. This is my profile. You can go to danielrobertson.com. Amanda, how can people reach you?
amandamonk.net is my website, and you can find me. I'm also tagged here, but Amanda Monk on Facebook.
Great. And get over to the Thriving Relationships Facebook group. It's free. There's 21,000 plus evolving men and women working on bettering themselves, becoming more secure in their relationships, learning how to love more authentically. So get over to Thriving Relationships. We'd love to see you there. And join us for the Relationship Hotline next week. Have a beautiful day, everybody. Cheers.
Bye.